People come to my office. I need a shark. I need a pit bull. I am neither of those things. And if you say that to me, I'll happily hand you off to somebody who I know who is. My analogy is I call myself the bear.
Hi, everyone. I'm Denise Tova, host of Beyond the Bar podcast, and I am back here today with a special guest. So he did not start in law. He started in mental health counseling, sitting down with people in really most difficult moments of their lives. Then he pivoted, went to law school. He built a family law from scratch, family law firm from scratch in the middle of pandemic. He did it in a way most lawyers had never seen by building the whole thing on tech from day one. And I'm really interested in that. And that turned into a second company, TekStak Legal Consulting, where he helps other attorneys to do the same. He is also co-writing a book on the psychological toll of family court because apparently he does not sleep. He also wrote a children's book about a dolphin who plays golf. I definitely cannot wait to dive into that. Gregory Gilston, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That was quite the introduction, obviously. A lot of versatility there. It's so good to be here and have the opportunity to chat with you today, Denisa.
You know what? Likewise. And yes, I mean, that was sort of a part of your resume. And that's something that I needed to read it off because there was a lot packed in it. And the beauty of the podcast is that we go beyond, I say the headline, so to speak, and the fame and all that stuff. So that's the stuff that you build. And I'm interested first getting to know the who. So, here's where it gets me. Obviously, from your resume, I can see that you were a counselor, then a lawyer, tech founder, author, a parent, and generally, typically, people pick a lane, they stick with it, especially, in the law. So what happened to you? Why? First of all,
It's a great.
why did you pivot?
I don't like to be bored. I operate my professional life considering myself as a helping professional. And that takes on many faces, right? It's not just helping somebody in their interpersonal or relational conflict. Generally speaking, ever since I started working for somebody else as a therapist into my years as a paralegal, my motto as a professional was identify the inefficiencies and implement the solutions.
Hmm.
And I see that across the board in how I operate now as a CEO and as a business owner of a law firm. So in my mind, I just try to implement the solutions and have people, a great team around me to help me do it.
So before you became a lawyer, you were a mental health counselor. You were sitting down with people in crisis. So what made you switch?
So when I was a mental health counselor, I went to training at Villanova University. I got my master's degree in mental health counseling there. And I spent a lot of time with adolescents in crisis in the Philadelphia system. These were kids who were either adjudicated dependent or delinquent. I was really in the trenches and seeing things from my standpoint that I'd never seen before.
Hmm.
And what was really tough for me was the supervision I got as a mental health counselor. The guidance I received was let these individuals guide their own self-discovery. Don't lead them to the answer. And in my mind, if I see the forest through the trees, I'm going to drag you right to the other side, and we're going to be very direct, and we're going to implement the solution. And it just wasn't working for me in terms of seeing the answers and not being allowed to help my clientele, the people I was helping, actually implement it in their own lives. So I became a lawyer. I felt like I could actually implement that directive style, and boy, was I right.
I hear a lot of implementing and efficiencies, and you speak in my language. I mean, I geek out like 3 hours every morning, AI, and just learning, soaking it up, and I'm a doer,
Mhm.
and I almost expect the same. And when I see people who are heading in a wrong direction, so to speak, we know what the answers are. Sometimes it's difficult to actually to implement it. And I find it frustrating to work with people who are not sort of self-motivated.
Hmm.
Now you chose a profession where there's a lot of handholding, right, to get to the end and to that outcome. How do you deal with that internally?
So acting with intention is extremely important to me. And I think that's where I really value the training that I had as a mental health professional, is not to take it on as my own. Every time I get out of my car and step into my house, I proverbially hang up my briefcase on the tree outside and say, this isn't coming inside with me, right? None of this BS is coming inside with me. And I think that's really helped me to not only act with intention on behalf of my clients, but act with intention as a lawyer amongst my peers, right? These cases can get contentious very quickly, and lawyers can take on their clients' cases as their own. So for me, it's important about mitigating expectations for my clients, but also maintaining a certain level of decorum and discretion within the field, and making sure that the attorneys know that my goal is to find a resolution above all else. And there will be concessions that need to be made, because as with any negotiation, there's push and pull.
What drives you crazy about, the counselor on the other side that's just inflexible? How do you deal with that?
So I say it takes four to tango. Takes four to tango. I actually kind of created my own rule of thumb. It's called family law math, right? It takes one to start and file a case. It takes two to engage in the case, because you need to serve the other side and get some sort of engagement. There's three sides to every story, and then it takes four to tango, and that would be both attorneys and both parties. And with that being said, sometimes I'm not too proud to say I can't work with this other attorney, and it's not because of me. It's because I know how they function, and I'm not going to get you the results you deserve. Other times, there's situations where, I live in Philadelphia or outside the Philadelphia area. I refer to myself to my clients sometimes as the Rocky lawyer, because I just take punches to the chin for my clients all day long. Sometimes there's communications, sometimes there's messages that are sent that are meant to poke and poke and poke. And sometimes my clients don't need to know about the antagonization behind it, and I can filter it through to them in a palatable way.
Hmm. How do you respond if somebody is truly poking and not
Mhm.
just a little subtle comment? What is your, are you noticing? I would imagine you notice some sort of a shift in energy, right? It's like, oh, there we go again.
Right.
Uh, how do you balance it? How do you just settle yourself when that's coming at you?
Well, in my counseling program, which once again I'll always cite to because it was so valuable for me, specifically
Yeah.
finding myself in this field, we learned about microaggressions,
Hmm.
and we learned about how, someone perceives you to be who they think you are based on how you look or what they expect of a person that fits your mold. I mean, let's be real. I'm a 6'7" white heterosexual male. People have opinions about somebody who presents that way. And when I break down those barriers by showing them that I'm actually, in some terms, a teddy bear, um, I just want to get results for my client, and I let these attorneys know it's not about us. I mean, there's a cost benefit analysis to everything we do as an attorney in terms of time and money and emotional bandwidth, and it's not ours to gamble with.
Yeah. So it's like a it's like a talk therapy. And I see it. I've been doing this for decades now, being in this field, in this industry, not a lawyer, but it's very clear to me is when you take it personally. And we're
Hmm.
all humans. We're certainly imperfectly perfect. But it shows. There's a huge difference. Someone who just takes everything on and it's their fight, it's their mission.
Right.
Here you have a client that has nothing to do with you, but it's the unresolved stuff which so well. Having that mental health counsel background has to be tremendously effective.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it perfectly, right? We're all human. And if you're an attorney and you try to replace that humanity with the law, you're going to get nowhere. I mean, we
Yeah.
have to acknowledge our clients' humanity. We have to acknowledge the reasons why they found themselves in the conflict that they find themselves in. And we have to try to present solutions around that, which remain in the confines of the law, but don't replace the humanity with the law.
Is there a significant other in your life?
There is.
Okay. Um,
Yeah, we've been together for 10 years, married for about five.
okay, so you're married. So how does she describe you when somebody cuts you off in the traffic?
Well, I'm from New York. So
Yeah.
there's a caveat to that. but I drive in my own lane, so to speak, right? I drive at my own pace. I get a lot done while driving, which for whatever you're going to take that as, I make sure that the music's playing and everybody's comfortable. And sometimes it crosses over into, hey, don't pick up your phone. But either way, she makes it known that people on the road kind of conform to my driving style, not necessarily me conforming to theirs.
That is such a great diplomatic answer. I wonder if that would be her version of it, but
No,
we'll
no.
we'll
So
leave it at
as much as I love my wife, our explanations of things vary greatly. She's very simplistic and calls it for what it is, probably most of the time, even though it's how she sees it. And for me, I try to make a lot of sense out of things, and I think very, very cerebrally, and that can clash at times. But she knows I'm coming from a good place.
Yeah, that actually is a good question. How do you argue? To me, argument is not negative, right? It's just
Mm,
it's a way of life. It's a communication. It's how do you take it on and how you deal with it. And I think it can also be a good. You're modeling something for your kids, right? Because
right.
it will happen. What is your style and what is her style when there is a disagreement?
Well, listen, everyone's human, right? And so
Oh yeah.
vocal escalation, while it happens, it's a non-starter in my book. There's no progress to be made when there's vocal escalation. So in that regard, that's kind of my lane is when we go about communicating, arguing. If it gets heightened, shut it down, visit it later, value the words that are coming out of her mouth to the extent that they can be tolerated. But same with me, right? If I get heightened, she should have every reason to want to shut it down. So I think that's only fair to argument, to tension, right? Because it is a normal part of human interaction and communication, but it's got to be at a place of intention.
Hmm. What do you overthink?
What do I overthink, or when do I overthink?
What?
I have a very crowded head. Obviously I take on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like in my mind to like if you ever seen those lottery machines late nights, like you won the
Yeah.
Powerball, and it's just going back and forth. That is my mind. And then what I have to do is pluck that lottery ball out of my mind that actually makes sense for what I need in my life. A lot of times I need to slow myself down because as much as I don't like being bored, I also know that I can easily rev myself up. And I will say, going beyond the bar, um, that was that came from a very defining moment in my life. I was 8 or 9 years old, and there was a lot going on with me, a lot going on in the world. Growing up in New York, that was right around the time of 9/11. My father worked in the Twin Towers. Luckily, he was safe, but the whole
Hmm.
town felt it. I dealt with a lot of physical disabilities as a kid, behavioral issues too. And I think what I realized was you don't want to take things for granted, but you can't be afraid to conquer the mountain in your way, and you got to embrace your own struggle. And so from that, I realized whatever disability I was dealing with, whatever was going on in the world at that time that we were dealing with, it didn't define me. It actually created me. It created the sense of self that I have today and helped me overcome the adversity that I faced as a child.
How old is you have a child, right?
I do. I do. She's two.
Oh, well, she's two, so you wouldn't have these conversations yet.
No, but you try to teach through example at that age.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Talking about a lot going on in your head and being creative. Tell me about the sort of your passion for tech. Tell me about that and how you applied it then to build company.
Yeah. So, I mean, some call me a glutton for punishment for owning two companies and operating two companies. I see them kind of being in very similar lanes. I mean, when I started my law firm, it was around 2021, 2022. I had the opportunity to do robust research into what tech stack would work for my firm, and it's worked. And I've become more entrenched in the legal tech community. I go to conferences every year. I love what this space has to offer. I also think it's widely untapped. Um, and I see that in my day to day as a lawyer. When I communicate with counsel, they don't know the first thing about the tech that they've onboarded. They don't know how to make the cases move along so that it works for their clients. I mean, you have to think about it. The law field, as much as it's a helping profession, it's a client services profession as well. So
Mhm.
you want to optimize the way that your clients, you know, experience your process. And so I'm noticing in my cases, they don't move along because nobody's using tech the right way. So first and foremost, I thought of TekStak because I was going to lunch with colleagues and they were saying, well, I either don't use tech because I'm afraid of it, or I don't use tech because I don't know the first place to start. And my number one question was, if somebody were to implement it for you, would you be able to, find a way to use it? Absolutely. If someone were to teach it to me and build it out for me and help me understand what I'd be using, yeah, I mean, we'll use tech all day. I know it's kind of the way of the future and something that's coming on fast. So from there, I'm like, how great would it be if the colleagues I have, solo and small firm practitioners, were using similar tech to me to move these cases along? We could get great results together because, as you know, in the legal field, not just one attorney operating in a silo, it's two attorneys trying to collaborate. And so I started offering some insights and advice. Some of my colleagues, I actually spearhead the solo and small firm practice committee of the Montgomery Bar Association. And I would just drop nuggets of information about the technology that I was using. People started to really value that. And I noticed that there was a clientele there on a local level, and eventually through my law firm coaching program and other networks that I'm a part of, on a national level. So we assembled a team of tech consultants, and we basically promised a few things to our clients. We will build out your existing technology. We will optimize the potential for utilizing other integrations and other technologies that could streamline your workflows and optimize your bottlenecks. And from there, TekStak Legal Consulting has taken a life of its own. We really started operations January of this year. We've had a few hopefully happy clients, and we're learning about how our company needs to grow, and we're sourcing clients who need to onboard technology in a way that works for them. We do not want to overwhelm these individuals because we already know that to some extent they're resistant to technology. So we just want to phase out an approach that works for their firm.
That is phenomenal, and that you are having this success. I mean, believe it or not, I still see our clients being divorce attorneys, people with AOL accounts.
Oh yeah,
and who are still mailing in checks, and it's just
I had an attorney tell me to fax her the other day.
facsimile. Did they
I
say
almost fell
facsimile?
over. Yeah.
God, I know. Uh, that I mean that is a success. Now, when you're talking about TekStak, are you talking about different client case management programs? Are you talking about actual applications? Are you talking about that plus process and also combined with AI?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of all of that. I would say the bread and butter, the foundation to every tech stack is a client management pipeline for both prospective clients, leads, and existing clients, right? And so you see that with some of the bigger names like Clio in my case and whoever else is out there. They have different functionalities for people who are, or people, prospective clients who are leads, and those who are in the caseload already. But from there, so many of these people we work with as clients of TekStak say to us, I've been paying the subscription for years. I know that there's functionalities that I don't use. Help me learn it. Help me build it out. Once we build it out, then we make recommendations to continue to optimize the workflows that are causing them strife in their day-to-day functioning. So it really could last a while, depending on how much help a firm needs with their technology.
No, I think, and it's great that they're coming on board because things are changing so quickly. I started my company in a different market, just short time ago, a few years ago. Been in the space a couple of decades, but this particular hyper niche. And I'm like you, I'm just, if you can do something efficiently, free up the time to do other things.
Right.
And it started with, just trying to find a sort of a custom. It's almost like you need a customization with just about any case management software out there. So we went through like 4 or 5, finally landed, I think, of Zoho, but it started adding a lot of like Zapier, customizations, and now being really entrenched in the AI. 80% of my company is completely run by AI, and
Right. And the
it
set it and
is.
forget it model is where you should strive to be.
Yes, but it's different, right? Because it's just, that's just my nature, and you have to be ready for it. You have to walk before you run, and
Right.
it's starting, slow, baby steps, right? Identifying those repeatable processes, something that's low risk, but being open to it. I
Yeah.
always say, when Uber came out, did you think you would put your 13-year-old daughter in a car with a stranger, or when the internet came out, right? So you can't
Right.
really resist it. So that is awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah, and it's funny you
Wow.
mentioned Uber because when I was in college towards the tail end, there were two interesting phenomenon that were starting to become popular, and one was ride sharing, like Uber and Lyft, and the other was cryptocurrency. And we had all of these opportunities to get in from the ground up, and nobody saw the vision. But now people see these visions. with AI. It's so in our face that we can't ignore it. But we got to make sure it's palatable for us in a
Yeah.
way that we can stomach and understand, specifically as lawyers who are risk averse. You know,
Mm.
what I say to a lot of my colleagues in the legal space is Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your tech stack. But
Yeah.
you can't resist it, or else you're going to flounder. A lot of these solo and small firm practitioners, they want to position themselves in due time to retire or sell their firm. As a law firm owner, I'll tell you one thing: if you don't have a tech stack in place, I'm only buying your phone number and your website, because that's
Exactly.
the only thing that's driving traffic to me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you want a solo practitioner who's younger to buy your firm, you got to create the value. You got to give them a tech stack that can deliver. And so, with that
Yeah.
being said, we we give these lawyers a chance to recalibrate. They don't have that chance. They are so busy on their own or with minimal staff. They
Yeah.
can't hit that recalibration button and say, all right, let's add technology. So we undercut their hourly rate. We help them understand the technology we're building out. And then we bring their firm into the 21st century.
I know we're talking about facsimile and AOL and all that stuff, yeah, but it's true. I mean, it's not really laughable because it's actually it's a sad reality. If you do not keep up, then you're and I've seen that with other providers is they're tired. They're
Yeah.
tired. They have nobody to pass it on to, and they're not attractive prospect. They're not going to get acquired, consolidated, bought out. They just will not.
I mean, the
Oh,
book is them. The book is
E-
them.
Exactly, exactly. So, wow. Well, this is this could be a whole another podcast here, but I
Yeah.
I, I want to hear about the golfing dolphin.
Yeah.
What? Tell me about that book. That is such a cute like theme. Where did that come from, and what is it
I
about?
I love to write. I've always wanted to write a children's book, especially when my daughter came into the world. This book was for her. So I
Oh,
dedicated this book to her and my grandmother as well, because my grandma, she's born and raised in Queens, one of the most important women in my life, along with my mom, my daughter, my wife. And she's like 95 and she could beat all of us in a foot race. I mean, incredible woman. And so she gives me a reason to smile whenever I talk to her. She's always like, yeah, I'm 95. I'm going to the Hamptons today. I'm like, wow, you're living. I'm living. And my daughter, I wanted to put the smile on her face. So I always wanted to write a children's book, and I've never been too into golf. I tried to get into it recently. I found out I'm not that good, and it takes a lot of time, which we don't have
yeah.
as a lawyer. But at the same time, all my friends love it. My family loves it. So I'm like, this could be a bonding experience with dads, moms, and their kids, whoever wants to read it, whoever's into golf. Earlier this year, I actually read it to my daughter's preschool class, and I bought this little dolphin hat. And so I have a really cute picture of her reading it with the dolphin hat on. So it's just memories like that. I did that for me and for her.
That is so beautiful. Oh my gosh, I can just visualize that. I
Yeah.
can just visualize it. Yeah, you're right. You describe yourself as a teddy bear. I mean, there's a sweetness to you and kindness. Like it, yeah, it radiates. I like that.
Thank you.
It, and I truly mean it. I really I've never met you, and so I say what I feel, and that highlights why I started this podcast is to sort of bring out the humanness. So somebody watching, whether they're about to embark on a divorce and trying to find a divorce attorney is scary. Going through the process is scary, but you're humans and good human beings who have to juggle so much, know about so much. So I think that's important. Now you're writing another book, right?
Yes, we are
Okay.
just about done in sourcing publication at this time. We've had a few leads. Writing it with a former professor of mine from Villanova University. It's called The Hidden Toll of Family Court Litigation.
Mm,
Thought it was hugely important because in family law, people find themselves in a state of turmoil, and oftentimes they realize very quickly that it can be out of control.
mm,
Once they enter the family court process, that lack of control it amplifies, right? I mean, realistically, nobody's ever in control because if I sneeze the wrong way as your attorney, the other side is going to get insulted and act a certain way. So,
yeah.
like I said, it takes four to tango, but the process can feel crappy even if the desired outcome is achieved. I
Mm,
mean, the delay in family court and not getting the full picture and thinking you have your day of justice when the judge has only read pleadings and some of it are not accurate and there's allegations being thrown around. I mean, that process can cause tremendous trauma for litigants that they never anticipated would affect them. and it's about time it gets spoken about.
That's the efficiency that you're talking about.
I
Part
mean,
part
I'm a
of
lawyer. I'm a lawyer
yeah,
who doesn't enjoy stepping into the courthouse.
I don't blame you. Yeah.
And they do
Um,
their best. I'll give it to them. They do their best. I mean, they're loaded dockets.
yeah.
Judges don't know these families on the ground. They do their best, specifically with the lower level hearing processes, to try to maintain that efficiency. They do their best, but it still falls short, in my opinion. And it impacts people in a way that they've never anticipated.
Yeah, I was surprised. I moved here from Colorado. I did some financial mediation there, so I was witness to just so many, court cases, whether they were litigated, mediated, collaborative. And I mean the duration was much, much shorter. I come here to New York, and it's almost like you're involved in a criminal case. And it's not, not saying it's the system. It's also the behavior,
Oh,
of
yes.
the, nah, I've never thought of myself saying the parties, and you have the
Hmm.
litigant or the adversary. I'm like, well, when you speak like that, it's you sort of are perpetuating it. But yeah,
Right.
it drags on. But you know what? Sometimes it's the unreasonableness of the two people who decide to, fight over forks and knives, and kids are in the middle, and then you have two unreasonable counsel, or one of them, and that really take it on as a personal fight. And then you have a system that is slow AF, and it's
They're
just
not
like a perfect
designed. It's
storm.
just not designed to handle it efficiently. And you hit the nail on the head by saying that when people start identifying as their child's father or their ex-spouse as the parties, they've entered very dangerous territory. And they don't
Yeah.
even acknowledge it because they are now in what I call litigation land. And it's hard to pull yourself out of that because you've now given the authority and the jurisdiction to a decision maker that's not
Hmm.
a part of your family.
Hmm. Yeah, you are this new age lawyer. What is your, having gone through this process, and really I think extremely helpful sort of iteration and transformation, what would be your advice to somebody who is thinking about coming into this profession?
I had a feeling you'd ask me that question.
I would.
Yeah. I would say on a practical level, let your client's stated goals always guide the process. When
Hmm.
I first meet with a client, I always ask, what are your goals for this process? And they tell me, starry eyed, bushy tailed, ready to rock, what the goals are and what they want the outcome to look like. But remember, the process is not determinative of the outcome. The process will feel different even if the outcome looks exactly like the goals that they stated. So along the
Hmm.
way, when I have people come to my office and cry, when I have people come to my office and say, you're not doing enough to push this through, I always go back to that very first memo that I drafted. This is what you said your goals are. Was this accomplished? Is this on its way to being accomplished? Most of the time, we're checking these off like very easily because that's how I operate. I keep their goals in mind for this process, and I advise them based off their originally stated goals because that's when they're thinking clearest.
That's great. You hold them accountable.
I have to.
Yeah.
It's not my life.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that is practical, because if you remind them, it's not about how you're getting them there.
Hmm.
It's about, these are your goals. I own the process. You own your outcome in your life, but I own the process. I manage the process according to your goals.
Right.
And so however it takes to get there, we're underway. So yeah,
Exactly. And I
yeah,
think that speaks to who I am as a lawyer, right?
yeah.
I don't operate off the rip. If someone says this is happening, send a letter, I say, send me the proof. Let's discuss the ramifications and let's talk about what sending this letter will do to the escalation of this case. And I think the one thing that always happens when I consult with a client is I'm very realistic. People come to my office, I need a shark, I need a pit bull. I am neither of those things. And if you say that to me, I'll happily hand you off to somebody who I know who is. My analogy is I call myself the bear. And it all comes down to the teddy bear in a way. If I'm a grizzly bear fishing at the pond for my salmon and the opposing counsel is a grizzly bear fishing at the pond for their salmon, we're gonna we're gonna coexist if we each take what our client is rightfully deserving of, the fish that we're rightfully owned. But if you encroach upon my meal, we're gonna posture, and if you poke me, we're gonna fight.
Yeah. Oh, that's, you know what? That's a theme for another book.
Could be, if I
I,
get the time.
give it to your AI team.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
I could see the illustration. Yeah, that's
We just put the bear on the wall outside in the waiting room, so people understand that's part of our logo now. And I feel like it resonates well. I mean, bears don't necessarily mean aggression.
no.
It's more so just advocating and defending for what you're entitled to, whether it's personal space, emotional space, or financial freedom. I advocate for my people. That's why you hire me.
Yeah, that it comes through really clearly. I think the sort of at least to me, this quiet confidence is more powerful than, little screamer. It's almost like shows, insecurity. And I know that's generalizing, and I'm not saying you sit there and you just you become a punching bag, but you kind of know your limits, and you know when you reach the point when you're simply not hearing each other. I had this conversation with my husband, who even like dealing with kids, teens, it's like, when you're screaming into the phone or you're seeing each other, you're not hearing each other. And so
Yeah,
I used to say when we first met, it's a repeated marriage. When we first met, I said, why don't you text about it? He goes, are you crazy? I'm not, no way I'm going to text about it. I'm going to get on a call. I'm like, and where does it get you? Because you're screaming. Now, my sort of view was if you text to someone, they have a chance to absorb it and to
yeah,
sort of like, you remove the emotion. They think about it. They might not like it, but it sinks in. So by the time you do have a conversation, maybe it's just texting, you've removed it. Um, but
yeah. And
yeah,
I value that, and I agree with that advice. And I'll add one component, which is give yourself a chance to respond. I mean, I give myself, if I can, the 24-hour rule. If something kind of spurs up some emotion with me when I receive a text or an email, I could even write the response, but I'm not going to send it for at least 12, 24 hours if I can give myself that grace. Because once again, it all comes down to seeing the forest through the trees. If somebody is sending a message to you with intention, even if you don't like it, you have to respect it for what it's worth. And you should give it the weight and deference that it deserves in terms of how it impacts you.
and if you are a bear and you are tired and you're hungry, do not send that message. It's like sending something at night or when you're hungry. It's very different than when you wake up, good start of the day, you feel refreshed, fed, and then you look at it and it's amazing. It's amazing
Well,
that you're
I
seeing
can
something
relate.
different.
Yeah, I can relate to that because you asked me how me and my wife argue. I
Yeah,
say we don't argue when things get verbally escalated. We also don't argue when I'm hungry. So I can
yeah,
relate.
yeah. No, same. Very different person.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, this has been a really great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and it just felt very, very quick, and like we could continue this. So thank you. This has been tremendous.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. It was great to speak with you today.
And and I'm sure our viewers, listeners, I mean, you have a counselor who became a lawyer, built a firm on technology, and for people who are, afraid to step in that direction, and but they want to attain a better results. I mean, it sounds like such a great practical way, and plus to be ready for, what's coming in today, and you basically are turning your passion into mission to help other lawyers. And I love it, and so I'm sure that everybody appreciated that as well. And for those of you who would like to get a hold of Gregory at Gilston Legal and TekStak Legal Consulting, we have links in the show notes below. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe button for our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bar Podcast. And until next time, stay curious and stay inspired.